welcome. So, this is going to be a Q&A stream. You have questions, leave them in the chat, and I'll try to get to them. Ramble about some knives, some blade steels, what I think about it, and just hang out for a little bit. Got some time today. Let's do it. I'm getting stuff set up on my phone over here. Oh boy. See if this pops up. Yay. Yes, it works. And a little delayed, but we're doing pretty good here. So, I think I'm going to start off rambling about some Ganzo knives. So, Ganzo has been a budget knife brand for a while now. I love their stuff. There we go. Camera focus. Thank you. They make these cool knives. They've come out with some really cool knives that I wish I could get my hands on. Ganzo, if you see this, please send me some. I'll spread the word. Your knives are good. But my first Ganzo was this Paramilitary 2 imitation with the axis lock. I mean, this thing is a fantastic, solid knife. This thing is wonderful. And it's barely gotten any sort of surface rust over the years that I've had it. About a year and a half, 2 years now. Now, you see me taking a honing rod or something to my knives. It's not that they're dull, I just need something to fidget. These knives hold their edges quite a long time, but I just need something to fiddle with a little bit, But, I got this knife, and this thing was just great. It was wonderful. And so I got a couple more. Now, those two I kind of regretted a little bit. They weren't bad knives. They just weren't what I liked. They didn't fit what I thought they would fit. And I have since then, I kept them for a long time, just sitting in a drawer. But last month I'm like, well, it's time to clear out some knives. And so I took those two knives that I had and disassembled them. The one was like an imitation of a ProTech with a button lock, or not button lock, axis lock. And I saved the hardware off of that, the blade, but I threw the handles, the scales, and the liners away. But I kept those back spacers and things, because you never know when you need one for another knife, and it might just so happen to fit. So, good to hang on to some of that stuff. But the two that I have kept one piece so far are these two. And these are just two wonderful knives. This Paramilitary 2 imitation. I'm sorry if things are a little fuzzy. Watching my stream here just a little bit. Man, we are really, really just lagging here. I'll try to slow down on the motions here. But this knife here has been fantastic to have. And this is FH923. I will say, Ganzo, you need to name your stuff better. No, a list of numbers makes it hard to keep up with. So please consider naming some of your knives with a better name than a string of numbers. But this knife right here, I don't know if I want to call this a clip point Bowie as much as like a scimitar type. I don't know. It's a great knife. And this has bearings on the inside, and it's just great. I love it. It's fantastic. If you see me glance over like that, I'm looking at my phone, which I am kind of using as a monitor to see how the live stream is coming out for you guys. So please bear with me a little bit. But this knife, I love it. I love the pretty much deep carry pocket clip there. Plenty of room for the hem of your jeans to get between the screws and the wall of the frame there. This has just been fantastic. And just great knives. I love Ganzo. They have some new Warncliffe models coming out, or already out, and they look so good. So good. They look fantastic. I want to get my hands on one. At least one. Any sort of dark green handles, I want it. And that Warncliffe is just so good. It's a nice full-size knife. It's not like a little knife. One of their bigger knives. It's just super sweet. So that's Ganzo. And people complain about Ganzo not using the best steel. And okay, in the world of super steels that we have now out in the knife community, that's not anything to really, brag about. But they're budget knives, so I don't expect the highest quality blade steel for them. And so, something like this coming in with 420 HC, which is pretty much or an equivalent to that, which is pretty much what Leatherman uses on their knife blades, I consider that fine and perfect. It's not trying to be a wing-dinger of a knife. It's just trying to be a good, reliable knife. And I do think these are two reliable knives. If you're looking at Ganzo and you haven't had a Ganzo knife before, the FH923, I said that right, FH923 and the G729. These are two models I'd highly recommend. I have handled paramilitary 2s, and this is very, very, very close to how they function, how they behave. I love it. I do wish you'd put a deep carry clip on instead of this little clip here, but that's just me. So, preferences in the user a little bit, and something else. Something I wish Ganzo would consider doing on more knives. I don't know if they've done it on any of them just yet. They might have. I might have missed some. But a feature, I like to have lanyards on my knives. If I don't carry them that often, I don't have the lanyard on. It makes it easier for storing. I don't have that many beads going on anyway, so, throw one in the drawer for a while, move the bead over to a knife that I will carry some. But it's this type of a lanyard hole where it is recessed into the liners there. That would be great if Ganzo would do that more, because that keeps the paracord from sticking out past the scales there, making it feel obnoxious. It's not bad. It's not a thing that would mess with the function of the knife, but it just, I don't know, it feels nicer when it's more flush, like this can be. This knife, not a Ganzo. This is an SRM 9201. I call this the poor man's Crooked River. It's a little smaller than a Benchmade Crooked River, but if you're into the vibe that a Crooked River has, and you don't want to pay $260, get the SRM 9201. This little guy right here comes in at like $25, something like that. A couple different handle colors, couple different handle patterns. Nice deep carry clip, little blue ring there on the pivot. Nice thumb hole opening for slow rolling or wannabe spider flicking. Hello, viewer, you just popped in. Hi, welcome. This is a Q&A stream. If you're got a question, throw it out. I'll try to answer it and hang out. Welcome. But this is the 9201 from Stay Ready for More, or SRM. Try and hold this more steady here. It just holds up nice. I like this knife. I do kind of regret that it is lined with Teflon washers. I wish that they would have gone with like phosphor bronze or copper or brass or something like that. Metal over plastic. Plastic is going to wear out and start wobbling, which I don't like, but I have spare washers. I could replace that. That's not the biggest issue in the world. But I like this knife. It's light, it's strong, super sharp. I like to keep the edge clean with a honing rod. And like this thing is just super thin, super slicey, but it's not so thin that you're afraid it's going to break. It actually has a good thickness to it. And I don't know, I think for $25, you cannot go wrong with that. This is a fantastic knife. The next knife that I think is well worth the money is the Land Knives 9104. This is a stainless steel handled knife with 12C27 blade steel, which is a great blade steel, and it's just a wonderful little knife. This thing is like a Chris Reeves imitation, a little bit smaller. It's like a centimeter and a half shorter than a Chris Reeves large Sabenza. But it's also, instead of $500, it's $35. Fantastic idea there. And for those that want the Chris Reeve shape, but not pay for a Chris Reeve, to have like the Chris Reeves swag, so to speak, this would be a good way to go. It stays in your pocket. It clips your pocket easy. You put it in, it goes in easy. It does not slip out easy. It's not like it's hard to come out. It's just, you're not going to lose it when you sit down or something. And it's just an absolute tank of a knife. This thing has held up so well. It's on bearings, which makes it very drop shutty, very fidgety. I apologize for the motion blur. I hope that's not making you seasick. If it's making you seasick, say something. But yeah, I like budget knives. I love to have all the high-end good stuff. I'd love to have a Chris Reeves Unums on. That thing looks sweet. I'd love to have like a proper paramilitary 2 with stone-washed, shipwrecked copper, like the whole shebang. It'd be great to have some of these knives. But on the flip side, game recognized game, and there's good knives out there that aren't costing a lot of money. And so knives like the QSP Penguin, it was super popular like 2 years ago. Like every EDC photo that I saw online, someone had a penguin, and half of them were the copper penguins. Love to get a copper penguin. But, I got me the green micarta because I am a big fan of green. And this little knife right here has been wonderful. The D2 steel on it just holds up. It stays sharp. It's easy to sharpen when you do need to sharpen it. And I live in humid Mississippi, and this D2 has barely had any surface rust at all over the last year that I've had this knife. That's saying something. This D2 is good D2. I love this thing. For like $35, it can be a one and done knife. If you're looking for a pocket knife to just kind of like one and done, or have a knife or gift a knife to a friend and you don't know if they would like a pocket knife or not, this is a good one to get. It would be a good one to get. And I would love to get more QSP models too. The Parrot, the Osprey, the Hawk, all those look good. They have new clip points coming out with like the Osprey handle, but they're clip point. I mean, those things look sweet. Those things look good. I heard on Bees Blades live stream the other day or not Bees Blades, but someone, Knife Center, someone like that, they were saying that there's possibly a Spyderco PM Bowie, and I think that means paramilitary style like this. By Spyderco, not Ganzo, but by Spyderco, and it's going to be Bowie bladed. That's probably going to look good, because their Tanto blade looked really good. The Bowie knife's probably going to look really nice. But, this is kind of my little collection of budget blades that are imitations of the high-end thing. Knocking out this one here. Since you came in a little bit later, kind of go over them again. We have the Ganzo G729, which is kind of a Spyderco Paramilitary 2 imitation, coming in at around $20 to $30, depending on where you buy it. Fantastic knife. I would like to have a Paramilitary 2, but this knife right here is a fantastic, fantastic imitation to just hold you off until you can get the real thing. This is good. I love it. This is kind of my replacement for a Benchmade Crooked River. I have handled Benchmade Crooked Rivers. I have had one for a little bit. This knife right here, fantastic. I love it. I wish the Crooked River would have that little thumb slot here for opening the knife. That would be nice. But it's kind of the poor man's Crooked River. And the poor man's Sabenza, the Land Knives 9104. These are just all good budget options. If you want the shape of the real thing, but you don't want to pay multiple hundreds of dollars for that. Now, the Paramilitary 2 is probably the most budget-friendly of the three, coming in at about $120, depending on where you buy those. It's really, these can be good alternatives. And since most people out there don't really know the knife world too well, they're not going to knock you for having an imitation. These are not clones. These are imitations. Now, addressing clones versus imitations. As much as possible, I want you to support the original manufacturers. If you want a Benchmade Crooked River, buy from Benchmade. Okay? I would recommend that you do that. Now, that being said, I understand that not everybody has $260 to buy a knife. You want a Crooked River, and you don't have that much money to buy one, then I would say, okay, you can go to wish.com and buy this thing here. This is a clone from wish.com for $15. Now, it may be about $20, $30 now. I got this a little over a year ago. It is a clone. Pretty dang good. Hard to tell this from the real thing. Stays sharp. It works good. There's no wiggle. I mean, it's a high-end feeling knife for under $30. And I have carried this a lot, and I have used it a lot. I like this knife. Don't get me wrong. I like this knife. I think it's wonderful. But I understand there's people out there that are going to nag at me for allowing clones in my collection. But I don't think they understand the world of minimum wage workers that can't afford a good knife. Now, they'll tell you, save your money, and instead of buying 50 knives, buy one knife. Okay, maybe. But in this world where it's like you see so many things, you want to try it out. And also, do you want to pay $260 for a knife that you may not even like the ergonomics of? It's good to spend the $15 to $30 for this and test run it to see if you like how it feels in your hand. How does it feel in your pocket? You can't just walk into a store and buy a Benchmade most places. It's good to buy the clone, at least see, do the ergos fit? And then you can decide from there if you want to get the real thing, which I would still recommend you would try to do. I want to have a proper Benchmade Crooked River. I have handled the real thing at Academy Sporting Goods when they've had them in stock, and I love it. But I understand not everybody has the money. So you're just going to have to do the best you can with what you have. And I think imitations are much better because you can tell this is not a Paramilitary 2, but you can tell it's wanting to be a Paramilitary 2. And that's fine. It's not a copyright issue. But, comparing these two guys, these are very similar in many aspects, but you can tell that they're also very different. Like this is not trying to be a Crooked River, but you can see that this is kind of trying to be a Crooked River competitor. I do not have a real Chris Reeve Sabenza here or anything. Even the clone doesn't look that great to the Sabenza, so I won't even hold that up. But this very similar. It gives you that vibe. It gives you that satisfaction of having that essence. You may not have that exact knife, but you will have that essence of what that knife is, what that knife does, the shapes and everything, how it fits in your pocket. And I think it's good to have that. So, been live streaming for about 20 minutes now. I might wrap it up here soon. It's just kind of just a quickie fill in the blank stream. But, I like budget blades. If I don't have to pay a lot of money for a good knife, that's fantastic. I am not going to hunt out immediately a clone. I'm going to hunt out an imitation or the real thing discounted or cheaper from someone else, if possible. Last resort, or if it just happens to work out that way, I'll get a clone. Give it a test run. But I don't really support the clones, as a concept. Like, do not buy clones over the original manufacturers, because usually the original manufacturers are better. But people say the Wish knives are garbage. They are not garbage. They are good knives. I have had several knives from Wish.com, and they've all been good. I have not had a problem with any of them. The ones that look sketchy are the Victorinox knives. Don't touch those. The everything just looks thinner and weaker on those things. But like the Benchmade knives, zero tolerance knives, a couple other brands, they all look fine. And if you don't want to spend that much money on the original knife, the original manufacturer, using Benchmade as an example, if you don't want to pay $260, I'm not going to knock you for having gone to Wish and bought a Benchmade Crooked River for $15. That's just how the world works. I'm not going to knock you for it. Some people will give you hell for it, but I'm not most people. Again, with all that said, I support the original manufacturers. If I can buy original first, I will buy original. If not original, I will buy imitation. Imitations are not clones like this. This is an imitation. It is not a clone. I will buy something like that. If things just work out or I can't find it and I want to see, does the thing even function any at all, I will buy the clone. So I know that's kind of a sore spot in the knife community. The issue and problem of clones. I get it. I don't like how much clones are taking over, but game recognized game. A good knife is a good knife. Like this, I've been told, is supposedly a clone. If this is a clone, it's a clone, but it's a perfectly solid knife. The ball bearings in this is a Demco AD 20.5 with a shark's foot. Perfectly fine knife. I love it. I'm going to carry it. If it's a clone, so be it. If it's the real deal, even better, But I like to have a knife, and this is a knife. Chew me out in the comments if you want. But let this be said. I promote the originals over the clones. But I understand there's people that don't have the money that it takes, and they don't have the time to save up the money for a Benchmade Crooked River or something, because these things sell out quick on Wish. And so, don't give them a hard time for buying a clone when they should have bought the original. Don't give them a hard time. That's just not fair to that person. It may not be fair to the original companies, but they're already making so much. They already charge so much. $260. Are you serious? For Crooked River. I feel like, and this is not like high-end, Chris Reeve, Sabenza, the quality they put into that thing, it's worth the $500. This is super mass-produced, made to look good, but it's not high-end. And so I don't think $260 is a good price point for this. I think, $150, under that, like $150 would be a good price for a Crooked River. I don't think $260. is good for that. That is not fair to the consumer to charge so much for something that is not so well done. A Chris Sabenza and like an Unumzan or a Shirogorov, those things are so well made. So much effort is put into those things. They are worth the money that they charge. But a paramilitary 2 gets it. They get it. You know, those PM2s at Spyderco are not that pricey. They're pricey, but they're not that pricey. Benchmade walking in with this sucker, and then the mini Crooked River, which is like 2 inches shorter, is just as much as the full size. That makes no sense. You know, it should be at least like $40 cheaper, which would still be too much in my opinion, but it should be considerably cheaper. It's not that much cheaper for how small that is compared to the original. And I just don't get knife manufacturer pricing on where do they draw the line on how much to charge. Now, I get it. A new knife. You've just designed a new knife. This is its first batch. Okay, you need to pay off the machines that make it, so you charge a little bit extra at the start. But once you've made these for several years, you have the machines and the rhythm down to manufacture these at cheaper costs. Why are you still charging so much? Can you not knock the price down? Like, like in the last 12 months, Leatherman has raised the prices of their multi-tools $20 across the board. $20. That's crazy. I get that, you know, a new tool, you need to pay off the machines that carve it out. Makes sense. But the free P2 has been out for 3 years. Three going on 4 years now. Why is that going up in price? Isn't the machinery and stuff supposed to be getting more efficient? Aren't you supposed to be finding ways to save money when you make these things? Why is it still costing so much and then increasing on top of that? Don't tell me inflation. Don't tell me about inflation. That is not how this works. Because source materials are supposed to be getting mined easier and easier, which would be, you know, charging Leatherman less for Leatherman to buy the metals from these people. The machines have existed for a while, so they've already paid themselves off. So why not lower the price and sell more tools? I mean, it's not like you're selling out. I have seen the same 3 free P2s at Lowe's for months now. They have not sold out. They have not cycled through. It's not like people are buying them faster than you can make them. You know, you make them. It's not like you have a multi-tool shortage. You're making them faster than people are buying them. So why not lower the cost? Why are you going up, Leatherman? That doesn't make sense. That being said, I do like your products. Your products are good, but why did you raise the price $20 in the last 12 months across the board? That makes no sense. Absolutely no sense. That's crazy. That's just absolutely crazy. And so there's a lot of these small mom and pop knife companies that are coming out, and I understand them charging more because they don't have the machinery paid off yet. They need to be able to sell these things and make the price count. You know, make the money count. Make it worth their time to make the knife. I get that, but it seems like after a while, prices should at least not go up as fast as they are. I'm just a little bit frustrated with the knife community, which is one reason that's tipping me more towards the clones. Now, clones I think are maybe costing a little too less, not enough. You know, on the flip side, you know, $260 too much for a real Benchmade Crooked River. $15 sounds a little cheap. You know, $50 sounds good. $100 maybe, but if I'm paying for a clone, I want to pay as little as possible. Let that be said. You know, $15, I'm fine with that. I wouldn't want to pay $60 for a Benchmade Crooked River on Wish.com. Like, that's just not how Wish should be. But I'm rambling back and forth a lot here, but that's why I like companies like QSP and Ganzo. They make good original products, or mostly original products, that don't cost a lot of money. They get the idea, and I like them for that. They're good companies. They're good companies. They treat their workers well enough, from what I can understand. And every time with the burps. But they just get the idea that a good knife doesn't have to cost a lot of money. And that's where I think Benchmade needs to come out with a more budget line, and I mean budget line. Hi there, I love knives. Welcome. I just think Ganzo, QSP, and a couple other brands, they understand a good knife doesn't have to cost a lot. And that's something that I think Benchmade, Chris Reeves, and a couple other knife companies could learn from. Is okay, there's no way I could convince Benchmade to lower the price of a Crooked River. In reality, there's no way that's going to happen. But can they perhaps make a model using less premium materials for considerably less, like under $100 for a Crooked River? Doesn't have to be S35V in steel, doesn't have to be titanium bolsters and all that stuff. Can we make it like D2 steel or something? Because Benchmade's D2 steel is great D2 steel. $160. Cannot find it at the moment. Oh well. $160 for a Benchmade bug out. Are you kidding me? Like, that is a lot of money. Yeah, I know. Chris, as much as we'd like them to do that, there's no way. But it would be nice if Chris Reeves would at least make a mini Unimzon or something using D2 steel and stainless steel scales or something. That'd be great to have that. I know. Like I said, that's why I support brands like Ganzo and QSP, SRM, because they get it. They understand the essence. Like comparing this to a Crooked River, it's basically a Crooked River without the fancy price tag and even a few improvements over the Crooked River. If you want that Crooked River vibe, but you don't want to pay that much, there's, look around. There's other brands that can provide a good product. And it just annoys me so much so. I understand a little bit of a price increase. There is a certain amount of inflation. But like I said before, Leatherman has raised in the last 12 months, all their multi-tools have been raised in price $20 across the board. That is crazy. That is crazy. Inflation has not kicked in that much where they need to charge that much. In QSP, they make good knives. I have only had one so far. I've handled a few extras, but I've only owned this one, and it's fantastic. The QSP Penguin, wonderful. And then you can get the high-end D2, it's all D2 across the board, but you can get the D2 copper and brass scales for about $50. That is a good price for a good knife. I want to get my hands on the Osprey. That thing looks super sweet. And then the SHOT Show, they have just come out with some clip points and stuff that are going to be hitting the market soon. Oh man, those little Bowie knives look so sweet. Those things look good. Ontario Knife Company, they make good budget knives. I like this Rat Model 2. It's just been a wonderful little knife. Perhaps. Steel is user preference. 14C28 over D2. I don't know about that, but D2 has held up. This is, as I've said before in previous videos and even this video, this knife right here, I've had for over a year. The D2 has held its edge. I've sharpened it once, and it's barely gotten any surface rust at all. And I live in humid Mississippi. I think D2 is perfectly fine, but that's me. That's me. 14C28N seems to be a new kind of fad for the steel community coming out. I don't really get it that much, but that's me. That's me. I don't get why people knock Victorinox steels that much. They hold up long. They work. They stay sharp. I don't see the issues, but that's me. That's not most people. Okay, I can get that. I can understand that. But I mean, I think that's just user preference. And I am maybe the type of guy that's a little bit more open. I'm not knocking you down or anything, but me, I don't really care too much about the steel as long as it's something better than Ozark Trail. Let's be real. Ozark Trail steel, that stuff sucks. Anything else, I don't really care too much. 3CR13, 8CR13, 5CR13, I don't really care. Steel is steel. I know how to sharpen my knives. I can keep my knives sharp. I can resharpen a dull knife. So edge retention and edge crispiness, how fine, how smooth of an edge can you give it, doesn't really matter to me. But that's me. This Rough Rider Apta in copper. Great little knife. I love the edge this thing takes. And this is coming in, I don't know what steel this is, 440 HC, I'm not sure. Fantastic little knife. Heavy as heck. All that copper, this thing is heavy. But it's great, and I love it. This has been a little bit of a rambling live stream. I'm bouncing back and forth a lot. But, I just don't get big knife companies charging as much as they do after the product's been out. I can understand a little bit of a charge at the beginning because you've just made the machines to make the product. You need to pay it off. Pay off the machines, and once you've done that, lower the price. Because there's people that would pay a lot of money to get the first round of something. Yeah, about. Now, there's one Ozark Trail. There's one Ozark Trail that I've had that has actually performed nicely, and it is this fixed blade here. This little guy here for like $5 at Christmas has surprised me. This has surprised me. It actually holds an edge pretty good, and it's just nice. Now, this is not the original sheath. I have the original nylon one somewhere, but I make my own leather sheaths for my knives. This is one Ozark that I will consider an exception to the rule, and I've had my fair share of Ozarks. The one that drives me insane is the $1.99 ones you find in the camping section of Walmart on the racks. Not behind the counter, but on the racks. It's that mostly serrated blade. Black handle is like a lockback. It's like an imitation of a Buck 110. Who in the right mind came up with that one? I'd be embarrassed to put that one out on the shelf. It just looks like garbage. It's the steel is thin, the handles are cheap, and then what's up with that full serration? Like, it's basically full serration. Yeah, same here. My first multi-tool was an Ozark Trail, and it had like black plastic scales on it. It was this one weird model, came out like 5 years ago. I had that, and that got me into multi-tools. Like, it was good for it was fantastic. I don't have it anymore because I've moved on from a lot of Ozarks. But that was a perfectly fine multi-tool. I did so much car work with that thing. I know. And they're so cheap too. Like, of course, they're going to appeal to the average person. Like, you see those things are like $5 or $10, and they've got a full selection of tools, and they just look good. That new one that looks like a Leatherman Wave, that's pretty good. Not great, but it's pretty good. I've got a little bit of mucus coming up my nose here. It makes you want to talk weird. It's like having a bubble in your throat. But Victorinox, I think, charges a pretty fair price for their product because they put the effort into their product. Like, you get a Victorinox, you're going to get a good quality controlled product. It's going to be fantastic. It's worth the money. They don't charge that much for their knives. They are a little on the pricey side, but the Swiss engineering is just engineered so nicely. Everything is just so refined. It's elegant. Compare that to Leatherman's crap job of a Swiss Army knife that they brought out a couple years ago, that Free K2 or whatever, and then like the ones that look like they're handles off of the Free Series multi-tools. Those are garbage. Like, really, how do you think those pass as a Swiss Army knife? In the essence of a Swiss Army knife. Like, really? How does that fly? How? Victorinox, you're getting a good product with Victorinox. That's just how it is. And they charge a little bit, but you get what you're paying for. You pay the extra buck, you're getting the extra miles out of the knife. It's that good. I'm a Victorinox fanboy. I have the Deluxe Tinker. I have Mini Champ. I have Classic Right, SD whatever. I have the Swiss Champ. All these knives and stuff I have carried, I have used, and they are standing the test of time. My favorite of the bunch is the Swiss Tool X. Fantastic multi-tool. I think this trumps the Leatherman Surge, and especially the new models with the one-hand opening and the pocket clip addition to it. Like, if one-hand opening knife blade was your main reason for not buying this over the Surge, well, that's fixed now. And then you've got a pocket clip that you can move around on it. It's just, Victorinox has finally started taking some good leaps. Alox Cadet, oh man, that sounds like that hurt a little bit. Those things are nice. Those things are sweet. I want to get an Alox Cadet. The one I want is the Farmer X in Alox. Those things look nice. I want to get that nice dark green on the aluminum. You throw a knife with green at me, and I'll snatch it up. I was lucky to get this on Black Friday when these things were knocked down in price. Oh, man. Birthday present. I feel sorry for you, man, because that sounds like that was a sweet night. What was that, like your first Victorinox, or what was that? Was that gifted? Who gifted it to you? Do you remember? I'm sure you do, but we don't. You and for me and the other viewers here, can you tell us a little bit more about that one? Recently, I've gotten the Opinel number 4. Fantastic little shirt pocket knife for cutting open boxes. Great little thing. Love it. Best friend. Yeah. Any idea where you lost it? And, did it fall over a bridge or something when you were fishing? Well, I hope you find. I hope you get another Victorinox A-Locks like that. You know, those things will stand the test of time. I mean, I've had this thing for going on 2 years now. Beat the daylights out of it. It's holding up nicely, and that's the plastic scaled Tinker. You know, get the A-Locks Cadet with the aluminum scales. That thing's going to really last. Putting the gun scope on. Someone at work probably took it or something, because it's usually the people at the gun shops that know the good knives. And I want to shift topics here a little bit, but like everyday carry, EDC is everyday carry, and I like to carry a lot of stuff, maybe a lot more than what most people would consider reasonable, but you know, it's not dragging me down really. I've got the belt space, I've got the pocket space. I'm fine with a little extra weight. I like to carry my stuff, and reviewing the gear like this, I have to carry some of these extra knives on hand in order to be able to test them. I want to try to use these a little bit before I make a review on them so that I can give as accurate of a review as possible. But like overseas knife laws, nightmares. Like this would be allowed. This is a Leatherman Juice. Nothing on here locks. It is a small blade. It's kind of a sheep's foot. Like this should be legal, but if a cop's having a bad day, he could still take it from you. Anything with a locking blade like this, illegal to carry in public in the UK and most of Europe. There's some European countries where you can carry whatever, or carry a locking blade as long as it's a two-hand opening or something. So like take off the thumb studs on your QSP Penguin and you could carry it in Germany. But knife laws are weird, but knife laws aren't what we're getting into right now. We're going to get into social acceptance of knives. Not much. We're not going to get into it much, but we're going to get into it a little bit here. And like, say you're at Arby's and you've got this big doughy turkey sandwich that they sell, and you want to cut it up a little bit. If you pull this out, not a lot of people are going to complain or give you a weird look. But you know, you're cutting your sandwich up. But if you're sitting there and trying to think of a good knife to whip out here, let's just go ahead and use this one. You whip this sucker out. You flick it open. You cut your turkey sandwich with it. People are going to freak out a little bit, probably. Now, the Arby's that I'm at, which I have used a few of my pocket knives at a time or two, luckily I'm in a state where people are pretty open to knives. A lot of the people that eat there are old guys that have grown up carrying pocket knives, that have had a knife since they was a kid. So they see someone with a pocket knife, you know, they're not going to freak out too much. But nowadays, it's just like if someone just sees a knife clip sticking out of your pocket, they're going to call the cops. It's just how, like, really. It's just crazy out there. Now, I have been lucky to have not been called out for having a knife, and actually more times than, you know, like the few times that I've been called out on it, it's been called out in a positive way. I've been lucky to have that. But I know some people aren't as lucky. You work at a workspace, you're cutting boxes, you whip this sucker out to break down a box, to fold it up, to pack it away, and some people are probably going to jump away from you and freak out. But maybe if you pull this one out, it's not so much of an issue because it doesn't look as scary. Or this one probably gets some laughs out of it, but it's too much to open. You know, you're trying to break down a box, you're trying to take two hands, open that, and you know, you want a one-hand knife, but some of these knives, you know, are more accepted than others, and especially if you like choke up on the knife a little bit where it doesn't look as scary, that's fine. But some of these knives, I have seen people and I've heard stories, someone has something like this knife here and they, snap it out to break a box open. And someone thinks it's a switchblade because it came out so fast. And it's not a switchblade. It's just crazy out there. Now, on the flip side, I see someone walk into a place and they've got 10 Rambo knives strapped on. I'm going to think they're a little weird. Okay. Be careful out there. Hope to see you again soon. But, I don't see anything wrong if someone has a couple pocket knives on their person. Usually like a fast action one, and then like a slow action pocket knife. I'm fine with that. And if you've got, all four of your jean pockets with a pocket knife sticking out of them, something that's faster actioned, I'm not going to complain because there's only so much that you can do with a knife. It's not like a nuclear bomb. It's not going to be bad. It's just a pocket knife. And most of us haven't even thought about using it for self-defense. I'm not a self-defense kind of guy. I just want to be able to cut my food. I work on my dad's car a lot, and it's like you got to cut the rubber hoses to, get the radiator out or something. You need a knife to cut the hoses. I do a lot of maintenance work where you just need a sharp edge, and a box cutter knife just doesn't cut it. Pun intended. So I like to have a more dedicated work knife. I'm the kind of person that has two knives. I have a food prep knife on hand, usually something with a little bit of belly so that you can get those angles to cut better. And then I have a work beater knife, something like this that I'll use for like cutting radiator hoses or, cutting off tree branches, stuff like that. And, I usually pair them up. I keep both knives food prepped, clean as much as possible, because you never know when one's more handy than the other. But I carry two knives, and I carry two multi-tools. I usually carry a Swiss Army knife multi-tool on my belt, and then on my other hip, I carry this big guy. I carry two multi-tools, two knives. That's how I roll. And there's also this concept of having an extra knife that you can lend to someone for a little bit. And so if I only have one pocket knife, I'm not going to be as tempted to lend someone a knife because I will be down to zero knives when I could have at least one left over. So kniferights.org has been doing a lot to make people aware of knives and how they're not that bad. But we're still a far way off from being able to, use our pocket knives just like food prep. Cut a sandwich. Open up a chip bag that you can't muscle open. Because you got to admit, some of these chip bags do not want to be opened. And they need a little bit of sharp-edged persuasion to get to those chips. You ever been hungry for Cheetos and the Cheeto bag doesn't want to rip open? You get the Cheeto Buster. But like most of my knives, I'm more into sheep's foot blades. These are not combat knives. These are work knives. People, they see a pocket knife, they think, there's some people out there that would see this Opinel number 4 and think that it's a deadly weapon. It is not a deadly weapon. It is not. It is too small. Even if you are skilled with a knife, like you're a pro, if you're John Wick, that is a dangerous weapon. How many people do you know are John Wick? I am not John Wick. You are not John Wick. No one is John Wick. You know what I mean? We're just sitting out here. My local town has painted an underpass with a history of the town, kind of a stick figure history, showing the railroad tracks going through, and so and so is here, people that did this, that did that in town, and it's great to see. And one of the things that I saw was something called the Courthouse Whittlers, and it was a picture of these two guys that would sit in front of the courthouse. This is back then, the date was like the 50s or something. The Courthouse Whittlers, two guys that would sit in front of the courthouse in town and whittle with pocket knives. Good luck doing that today. That's just not going to happen. You sit out front with a pocket knife, you may not get thrown in jail, you may not get a ticket, but you're going to get harassed for doing it. Now, I do not intentionally want to go to the courthouse to whittle. There was people that lived in that area of town, and the park benches out front was a good community place to sit and talk and pass news around. This is back before Facebook, kids. 1950s, you didn't have the internet. The only way gossip was getting spread was if people sat face to face and talked about it. And so these guys would probably sit there. I don't know the details of the Courthouse Whittlers, but they would probably sit there and spread the news of the day, what's going on, who's doing what, and no one cared about the knives, and I'm sure there's people that sat at city parks and whittled. Good luck doing that today. I managed to get away with cutting a sandwich at Arby's, and I'm usually not flashing the knife. I just usually pull it out just enough to cut the sandwich and move on, because I know if I make it too much of a flashy show, there's going to be a problem with that. And it's just kind of sad where the knife world is. I mean, in my area, I can carry whatever knife I want. I can carry an out the front. I can carry a switchblade. I'm not really big on automatic knives. I don't like the idea of a spring because it gets you relying on the spring. And if the spring breaks, you're just heartbroken. So I prefer manual action where my own finger made the knife go out. It's not on accident. But I am in an area where I can carry whatever I want. The only stipulations are if it's a fixed blade, it must be showing, like you can't just have it tucked in your pocket, and some part of it has to show, and no knives on school property, no knives on government property. Okay, fine. I'm okay with that. So by the legal law of my state, I can sit at Arby's, pull out my knife, and legally cut my darn sandwich. But there's people that don't care about the law that's going to complain about that sooner or later. Now, I do not make a regular habit of this. I think in the last year, I've done it 3 times. For the record, I do not regularly cut my sandwiches, but I'm just using that as an example of being out in public and you need to use your knife. Most people will not care if you're using the knife if it's breaking down a box, because that is like a necessity. Like Walmart employees, if they pull out their own pocket knife and cut a box down over its top of using that little dinky box cutter that they give you, that's accepted because that's part of their job. But like outside of the job, to do whittling in a public space, to do food prep with your own pocket knife at a table at a KFC, you're going to get hassled. And it's just not a fun place anymore. Like across the board, across the nation, across the world, like it's just sad that people cannot use their knives for the little things to make their life easier. It's not like we're using them for combat. No, we're just trying to cut our turkey sandwich. Sticking with that as an example, I like the turkey BLT sandwich. That thing is great. I love it. Put some more Bronco berry sauce on that sucker. That's good. Didn't even know Bronco berry was a thing till a couple months ago. Now it's like my favorite sauce ever. That thing is so good. But the bacon usually needs some chopping up. But, Now, I try to muscle through it. I try not to use my knives, but there are times where it would be nice if I could just pull out my knife and use it and not have people just, freak out about it. Now, I have not had, for the record, I have not had people freak out, but I am aware that there could be people that could freak out about me using my pocket knife. And it's just a weird world that we live in right now. And it is what it is. So before things get any more depressing, I think I'm going to wrap up the live stream here. We've been going for just over an hour. It's been a while since I've live streamed, trying to see if this stuff still works. So thank you all for listening to me ramble a lot. If you have questions, leave them in the comment sections of my videos. I'll try to get to them. Hit me up on Instagram if you want, JSPR_EDC. And, hang out. So, until the next time, carry well, and bye-bye.